Hello again, friends. There's been an interesting question that keeps popping up, and it's not one I was expecting to have because these two characters are nothing alike. But as you saw in the thumbnail, this is about Queen or Makoto versus Chord, and people are asking with limited gems right now, who should they pull? Now, I'm going to put a gigantic disclaimer here. These characters are nothing alike. They don't fit the same niche. They're not really, you would replace one for the other. But I think this is coming from people saying, oh my God, Makoto is a nuke single target damage dealer. We don't have nuke single target or nuke damage dealers at all. And then I keep hearing all this stuff about Chord being the super meta, a character we don't want to skip. And I think people are looking at their limited resources and saying, well, where do I want to spend? And so, I can't really tell you to pick one over the other necessarily because it's just not a fair argument. But I do want to show you what both of them do so that you can make an informed decision. And I'll tell you at the end, what my personal choice would be if I was in the situation where I could only pull one of them. Now, I get that Phoebe's likely to come in between here. She's a whole different argument. She's not part of this equation right now. So I'm talking about limited characters, Queen and Chord. Unlike my normal should you pulls, this isn't like a singular decision of should you pull Makoto, should you pull Chord. This is really to try to help you answer that question of if I don't have time to save for both, who should I really prioritize? And I'll give you some gameplay. We'll have a little bit of fun here. I'm not going to run perfectly optimal setups or anything like that. I just want to give you a rough idea of what they do. Keep in mind that in both situations, they could probably be even better than what I'm going to show you today, but they're still going to look really good. So with that, a like and a sub would be tremendous. My youngest asked me if I was going to hit 1 million subscribers. I told him probably not. But hey, you know what? If you want to be part of the first Gacha streamer to ever hit 1 million subscribers on YouTube, please hit that sub button. It'd be crazy. But in any case, one of the pieces of irony here, I'm going to turn my face off so I can show you everything, is there's no guild boss or SOS boss right now on KR that's tailored towards nuke. And so I can't really show you there. And I'm going to have to pick just like a technician battle where somebody is, weak to nuke. And actually, I'll do this one here. And that's just so I can kind of show a somewhat fair approach. The problem is, and I told the guild this, I keep killing things too fast to demonstrate her damage, which is strangely ironic. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick a team that when you hit Wonder level 70 and you can level your characters to 80, this is a team you could run in global today. Now, there are much stronger teams for Makoto, but I want to show you something that's relative to what you could do with her today since she's a DPS. If I were to show you her with Futaba and, other, supports that could really buff up her crit damage, it wouldn't be a fair assessment of what you'd get on launch. As far as personas, I'm picking personas that you could very well have in your stable when you hit level 80. And then I'm going to pick this dagger here, Primordial Force, because I'm expecting that to launch with her. Mine is not leveled up, which is actually nice for this demonstration. But when Palace 3 comes out, you're likely to change this to the Mechanical Agitator or whatever they call it in global anyways. But I think this is a fair representation of her when we actually get her. Second team here does not matter because we're not going to run that fight. And the only thing I have to be careful of here is I could very well get killed. I'm not running a healer, and these are level 95, so they're not like your typical level, 70, 80 characters. And so we're just going to run through, and this is actually ironically a mini showcase for Vino because she will be launching with Makoto on her banner, from what I can tell. And the two of them go hand in hand. You are not going to want to run Makoto without Vino, just period. Good news is, on your journey from Makoto, you're likely to pick up Vino or multiple copies of her, so we're going to run with her. And what we're going to do is we're going to set this up like we normally would. I may have to launch her highlight off onto the other guy just because, like I said, I don't want to kill this thing too fast. But she's a fun character. She is a little bit simple in the fact that you're really just going to spam her skill 3, but it's still fun nonetheless. So let's grab some crit here. You want her critting. She can do some pretty devastating damage. I want to say it's Bladesifer. I feel like a while ago I saw Bladesifer post a video of her doing like 1 or 1.2 million damage or something like that on a really perfect setup. And obviously a guild boss that she's built for. But really her gameplay is this. You jump on your motorcycle and you press skill 3. That is what you are going to do with this character constantly. We'll see if we can live through these first couple hits because I'm not bringing a healer. And honestly, for these, like for score, a lot of times you're going to try to push without a healer. Oh, man. Well, let's still let him die. Who cares? It means I'll have less defense down on him, but this is not meant to be a tutorial. When I do her actual guide, I will show you something more realistic here. But he's also level 72. He's not even level 80 on my account here. And then so Vino, now we're going to drop this down, which is going to increase how much nuke damage basically they take. So she puts on elemental ailments, which is what Makoto works off of. And so her second skill that you just saw me use is going to increase how much damage they're going to take here with nuke. And then I think I'll just do a Raccoonda right here. Again, not going to be optimal. And now this is what's really kind of interesting with Makoto, is because I'm going to switch into her mask right now, or her other form, it's actually round 2 where she does her big damage. Instead of a 3-round setup, it's a little bit awkward, but all the same, she just ends up doing a whole bunch of damage. And so we'll hit that. I'm going to ignore these for a second. And then she's going to come in, and based on how many elemental ailments there are, she does extra hits. So I'm going to hit him now. And he's probably going to die before I can do all the hits. Yeah. So she should have done, I think, one more hit in there. And again, this is suboptimal. I don't have all the defense downs on. I didn't optimize her crit damage or anything like that. But on a 95 level enemy, she basically went into her first real damage round and just took it out. So she can do a ton. And like I said, if it's in a actual like guild boss or SOS boss that is built for a nuke team, she is going to do a ton of damage. Like it's not hard at all to get her to like that 500,000 mark. And then, like I said, when Blade was shown a later stage team where you have better supports and those sorts of units, you know, he did over 1 million. So she can absolutely, in the right setups, just do devastating damage. And she is going to be your best single target damage dealer, I think, probably until Violet comes out, really. I'm trying to think if there's any other single target in between that's worth it, and I don't think there is. And so she is definitely strong. She will definitely help you. She's the only nuke damage dealer. So it's not like there's some other unit unless they throw some sort of global first surprise. So she really does fill a very specific niche of being your best single target damage dealer for a long time to come, and your only nuke. As a consolation prize, Vino is a really good support. She is 4-star, and if you look at KR, TW, CN today, there are better supporters out there. But as far as right now, she is going to be one of your best supports as far as putting these different ailments and such on enemies. So, you know, she's not someone to sleep on either. So when you pull for Makoto, you kind of get a 2-for-1 deal. And like I said, you're not going to run her without Vino, so you do have to kind of pull them together. But that's just a very quick show of some of her skills and kind of like how you would set her up, although, you know, my boy Soy kind of fell to the wayside. It actually kind of made her look weak just because I couldn't show you the full scope of her damage. I wish there was a guild boss right now that I could, but it is what it is. So for Chord, I'm going to show you a slightly fun team, one of my favorite teams to actually run in this game. And so for this one, thankfully there actually is a guild boss I can do this on. And same thing, I have to kind of go for the can I get through it without dying in round 1. So we'll just jump in here. And ironically enough, I'm actually running Vino in this team. So again, there's different ways to run these teams. I don't have all the best debuffers in here. So I'm going to turn my camera off here. But this is my Violet team with Vino subbed in. I got Futaba here. And again, I'm not going to go for perfectly optimal rotations here. If I did, I would have to completely change my speed tuning here. Like him going third is actually a problem. And it's going to cost me hundreds of thousands of damage in this team setup, which is wild to say that can do that, but it really does because I can't buff appropriately. And this is, just like with my Makoto, A0, R0 on the unit I'm showcasing. I don't really pull for duplicates, so you're going to see that most of my characters are default. But let's go in here. You know, again, this is not a team you could do today, but just to give you an idea of what Chord can do, and because this fight can last longer, I can actually show off a couple things. And we're going to go into I guess you could say a typical Violet setup to try to get her to do a really good highlight damage. And so what Chord is here to do is really buff a unit and then buff highlights. Like she's really meant to be like a crazy set up your highlight type person. She makes them charge faster, they hit harder, she can do off-turn highlights. She is truly an incredible unit. There is absolutely no doubt about it. And she has value in so many different teams. And I think that's really going to be my first point here, is Makoto is, for one thing, DPS. She is there to, sorry, I have to think and talk at the same time. She is there to really just like lock out some serious single target damage. And she's only really going to get blocked if the single target is nuke related, or not nuke related, it's like nuke resistant. So even when it's not a nuke weak set of content, you can still use her and she will still just like wipe the floor of single targets. She's definitely not weak in other content. So don't take it as she has to fight against Nuke. It's truly not that. It's just that she is better when fighting Nuke, just like any damage dealer is better against the element. But outside of that single target niche, she's not a good AoE damage dealer, and there's so many other AoE characters you would want to have regardless. And so you really aren't bringing her to non-single target type fights, but when it's single target, she's fantastic. Chord, on the other hand, is good in almost every team. Now, she doesn't pair well with the P3 cast because they have their own theurgy system. That's a whole different kind of, setup or problem, if you want to call it that. And, sorry, let me grab some skills here. And there's a couple teams like, I don't know that I would put her on Fox's team, for example, but I would say that 9 times out of 10, she really can go into just about any team. And I'm talking and I'm forgetting what part of my rotation I'm in here, which is terrible. I think I'm sitting on this turn here. So, God, look at that. So, they're going to fill different niches. One thing I will say here is that in this game, supports are very, very strong, as are good navies. And so right off the bat, I think a support unit, when you have limited pulls, is going to be more value for your gems, if that makes any bit of sense. And see, this is where I'm not optimal, because I should have other buffs up right now before I launch this, but this is going to be the best round to run this at the moment. And so from that perspective, if you are truly stuck in a situation where the only thing you can do is choose between a Chord or a Makoto / Queen, then I think you really do want to go with Chord. She is going to be the one that gives you more legs on your account and can enable so many different things for so many different teams. If I can think about a potential downside to Chord, it's simply that when you have to run a 2 DPS setup, that's where I feel like she kind of fails, because she's really good at buffing one person. Sorry, need to think here. Yeah, I want him. I want his for his highlight. She's good at buffing one person, but she doesn't really do well at buffing more than one particular, character. So in situations where you need 2 DPSs on a single team, where that's an optimal type situation, she is not going to be the one for you. Like, you're going to have other supporters that you're going to want to run when that comes to be. So let's see if I can get a good crit on this. I'm not sure what my crit is sitting at, because I haven't been paying attention. Can we get 1,000,000? 852. Believe it or not, that's actually a really weak hit. So this is part of why I love this team. Like, she will absolutely go above 1,000,000 on a single hit. And then her follow-up there was 500 for a skill 3. All right, so let me come back and talk to you. So yeah, so Chord is not great on multi-DPS teams because she's only buffing one person. And otherwise, she really is good. If I were to think about how could I recommend prioritizing your gems? If I'm in that situation and I can only get one character and I don't have enough for even weapons, I would say Chord is going to do more for your account overall than Makoto. It doesn't diminish the value of Makoto. It's just that Chord truly does enable so many teams to do so many things. Like what I just did there with launching Kasumi's highlight multiple times. Obviously, that's a Chord thing. Chord enabled her to off-turn run that. And if I had properly set that up, then her first highlight would have been significantly more damage. Again, I didn't bother speed tuning and do other things I would normally do on a true score run. This is just, for fun gameplay. But that's the kind of stuff she does, is she's getting more highlights, she's enabling stronger highlights, and on characters that really want to live off their highlight, like Kasumi, she just does incredible things. So she's all around a great unit. So if you can only do one thing, and that one thing is just getting a character, you don't have any gems for weapons, I would go for Chord. Now, if I had the potential for 2 things, this is where I would say Chord is your priority. Then I would prioritize into Makoto instead of a weapon. Chord does love her weapon, hands down. It's not a bad weapon, it's actually a very good weapon. But I would rather have the 2 characters than Chord with just her weapon. So if that's like your second stage, it goes Chord only, then Chord plus Makoto. After that, I would say, it's so tough because on the weapon front, like let's say you have both characters and you have some gems and you can pull a weapon. The thing is Makoto's weapon does a ton for her character. It really does enable that massive damage that she can output. But then Chord is helping you in so many teams. And so that's where it gets really tricky. I think for account longevity, Maybe Chord's is the better weapon to pull. It's just that right now Makoto is going to be at her prime, and she will be until basically, I would say, pretty much Kasumi comes out. And so having her weapon now does a lot for your account. But if you are truly going to be limited on resources, maybe do pick up Chords. The other thing I would say is if Chord gets an earlier rerun, then maybe do Makoto's now and pick up Chord's weapon on a rerun banner, because you'll still use her longer out there, whereas Makoto is strong now. That's a really tough one, honestly, now I'm thinking through it. I think I've recommended picking up Makoto's before Chord's, and if it was for my personal account, I would do that. I would go Makoto with weapon, then Chord, and if I had to, I would skip Chord's weapon till a rerun. But it's hard because her weapon really does enable her quite a bit. So that one I might say is more of your choice. If you really want to get the most out of Makoto and you're running on limited resources and you're trying to pull Chord, I would maybe go Makoto with her weapon, Chord, pick up Chord's weapon later on a rerun, or try to get it before her banner runs out, since they seem to be running a month for all the limited characters. That might be how I play that one. But ultimately, if I'm going to compare the two and you only have gems for one character, Chord is going to be the better one in terms of just what they enable on your account. As much as I love Queen, it's just the truth. Like, Chord will do more for your account in the long run. But don't sleep on Makoto. If you have the gems to go after both, or if you want to say, try to get maybe Makoto up to the 50-50 mark, and if you lose your 50-50, then call it a wash and just wait, for Chord, that's fine too. But I wouldn't skip Makoto just to skip Makoto, just in general. Like, she really is somebody I should recommend for your accounts from that really truly good single target damage dealer for a long time to come, and you're getting the consolation prize of Vino over here on the side. She really is an absolutely fantastic character. So hopefully I didn't waffle too much at the end there. I was trying to think through who do I really think I would recommend. And this question, like I said, it does come up a lot, ironically enough. It's not what I was expecting, because I usually would see damage dealer versus damage dealer, or support versus support, or Navi versus Navi. But this is a support versus a DPS, which isn't normally two things you would compare. But again, if I'm going to recap it, I would go Chord first in terms of if you only have gems for one. If you have gems for a couple things, Chord and Queen. Then you get into, well, now do I have the room for weapons? And I think if it was my account, I would actually pick Makoto's weapon over Chord's in the short term, knowing I can get Chord's later on a rerun. But if that freaks you out and you really want Chord at her best right now, then I would tell you to go for, her weapon right now. Well, right now when she comes out, she'll come out soon enough. Other than that, I'm not going to get into the A1 versus A1, R1 versus R1. There's so many nuances of if I had this many duplicates versus that many duplicates. I think that's too muddy for this conversation. But overall, Chord is fantastic. I'd have to put her over Makoto in terms of if I only could pick one, but don't sleep on Makoto. She really is a very, very good character, and she's going to be your single target damage dealer for a long time to come if you're looking for a limited character. That's it, my friends. Hope you enjoyed the gameplay, even if I set everything up suboptimally and didn't speed tune and didn't switch out my skills and all the things I would normally do for a score run. And with that, again, a like and a sub on the way out would help tremendously. And until our next video, or as of this recording, a few hours from our next live stream, please take care of yourselves.